All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening, Jason.
Good evening. I had my video off, so you didn't see me frantically typing out trivia questions. Um,
Oh,
so first things first, Jan, if you don't mind, can you just watch that waiting room for me while we get started here?
I sure will.
Okay. All right. And so first off, if anyone can't hear me, just let me know in the chat, and we'll make sure we get the audio taken care of. But is everyone seeing a slide with a picture of Dan? We're all good there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So before we get started, I do just have a few quick announcements about the fair, and then I'll turn it over to Dan, and he is going to take up most of today to answer your questions and kind of tell you about what he does. All right, first off, if this is your first time here, I know I see a lot of familiar names, but if this is your first time, we are the Virtual Science Club. We are a joint venture between the University of Tennessee Pre-College Programs and SASEF, which is the Southern Appalachian Science and Engineering Fair. We meet 2 times every month, and right now you're at the guest speaker meeting, so you'll hear from a guest speaker here soon. But the second time we meet each month, we actually break out into breakout rooms. And I see some questions about that in the chat. We're not doing that tonight, but on December 15th, that's our next breakout session where we'll actually split up into breakout rooms by research area. So that, again, that's December 15th. It's 2 weeks from today. So I won't go through all this. I just want to focus on one of these things just to make sure everyone is aware. If any of you in this room, and I'm hoping all of you are planning to do a project this year and enter it into the virtual SASEF Science Fair, I wanted to focus on this March 24th date here. This year, because the fair will be virtual, there's a few new things that you'll need to do. So there's a lot more info on this online, and we'll be sharing more info soon, but I just wanted to get ahead of this and let you know a little bit about that. So by March 24th, you'd have to have 3 items, really just 2 items that are required turned into us. And that's just the week before the fair. So say you've done your project, you've got your project done, you're planning to put everything together to get ready to talk to our judges. You will do a project presentation this year instead of your traditional science fair poster. So instead of your poster that you would stand in front of in the physical event, you'll actually be doing a slideshow, kind of like what I'm doing right now. And we will be providing templates for you soon that you can work off of and kind of put your own spin on. So that's the first thing. The second thing, this is actually something the International Science Fair, who we're affiliated with, is doing. Is a quad chart, and very simply put, it is a 1-page summary, and there's a screenshot of what it may look like right there. And again, we'll provide templates for this in the coming months. And then last thing, a video. You don't have to do this, it's optional, but we are allowing students to turn in a 2-minute video just to kind of describe their project. You won't be penalized if you don't do that, but that is an optional piece of your presentation this year. So you can upload all that online when you're doing your project and registering it. If you have any questions about any of that, just email us, prep@utk.edu. And again, these are due all the way in March, so you got some time here. All right, that's all I have. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the floor over to Dan Hurst here in just a moment. I'll introduce him. He is the founder of Strategy. And Dan is a former SASEF winner. So we have a former SASEF winner here tonight. He is going to speak about how science and science fairs launched his career and his business, and in parentheses there, just made life a little more fun. So Dan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jason. And thanks to friends and leaders out there that have kept this organization going in a strong way for years. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I guess the first thing I would comment on is it seems like a proper introduction to winter today, right? Reminds me of the good old days when I was growing up in Carnes, and we'd have several snows a year, and it seems like we're off to a good start here. And so the weather outside sort of invites us to have a look at the sky when it's clear, and get around a campfire and maybe ponder things that are bigger than we are. And so I want to take us to a campfire outside right now in our imagination, and ask you this question. So if we're looking up at the sky, and it's a totally dark night, so it's a new moon, there's no light pollution, there's no trees hindering the horizon, you have perfect vision, and you have the patience to count the stars you can see. I'm curious how many stars you think you might be able to see in the hemisphere that we are in. Okay, so think about that. Think of a number, and I know there'll be a wide range of numbers if I ask you to shout them out if we were gathered together. But it's really surprisingly few. If you counted them all and you counted until you got everyone, it would be between 4,000 and 5,000 probably that you could see with the naked eye. So most people are kind of surprised by that. So let's go from the sky to the beach. Jason, let's see that next slide.
Sorry, I missed the sky. Here's the sky. And there's the beach.
Okay, let's go back to the slide. Yeah, sorry gang, I made a little glitch here because my the screensaver on my computer is very much like this shot. So I thought we were already there, Jason. But yeah, take a gander at that sky. And then now let's go to the beach. So we said we could count about 4,000 stars with our naked eye. Let's imagine we had the patience to count all the grains of sand on that beach and all the beaches in the world, all the deserts in the world, all the grains of sand. Geologists estimate, if we did that, that we'd count about 7.5 billion grains of sand. So my question for you is, with the technology that we have available to us now with Hubble and so on, within the last few years, astronomers have estimated how many stars there are in the universe. Would you guess there are more stars in the universe or grains of sand on the planet? Just answer to yourself. Hold that thought. Let's go to the next slide, Jason. So here's a typical snowflake. We got a few of those yesterday. And if you look at this typical snowflake, it's made up of about 100 crystals of ice. And each one of those crystals has about a billion water molecules in it. So each snowflake represents about 100 billion water molecules. Or you could say there's roughly 10 water molecules in that snowflake for every grain of sand on the planet. So back to the first question, in terms of how many stars do we estimate in the universe? Right now, we estimate there are about 1 million stars for every grain of sand on the planet. And last night when the snow fell, if it fell in an area about the size of your living room, there would have been more water molecules fall in that area in about 10 seconds than all the stars in the universe. It's just fun with numbers, really. But as we come back to the campfire and think about the world around us, for me, that's the beautiful thing about science. It's the language that lets us explore the wonder in the universe. And for me, that's sort of lit a fire in me many years ago that's made all the difference. So my plan for this evening is just to talk to you for a few minutes and then answer any questions you have, but talk to you about how my science fair career started, how it affected my career in engineering and science and business, and then answer any questions you have. So as far as that journey with the science fair goes, I think there are 3 thoughts that when I'm finished with this, I hope you hold on to and maybe encourage you. Number one is I would encourage you to embrace the wonder, because I think that's what inspires us in our journey. The second thing I would say is I'd invite you to embrace your fears, because overcoming the fears is where you grow. And the third thing is to embrace your dreams, because the dreams really can come true. And I'll get into some more details about this. So let's start back in when I was a junior in high school. There was that one science teacher that made all the difference. For me, her name was Dr. Linda Kane. And having heard what Jason just said, inviting you to do science projects, I'll tell you that not only was Dr. Kane a good classroom instructor, but she was the one person who made us do those extra things because she saw potential in us and thought we could be more than maybe we would pursue with our own effort. And I can vouch for that and say I certainly would not have done a project if she hadn't made me do it. So we knew we had a project to do, and the question was, what would I work on? And so I had this fear of spiders, and I wanted to learn to overcome that. And so I came up with an idea related to spiders that build cobwebs around your house. And nobody would get mad at me, you know, if I worked with spiders except my mom. And so I came up with this question that was, is there a pattern to those cobwebs? And if I expose these spiders to certain external stimuli, will the patterns of their webs change? Will their behaviors change? So I went to the barn, the garage, friends' houses, and I collected about 50 spiders to my mom's chagrin, brought them into the house, and designed and created these cages for them to be in. And then using the scientific method, created an experiment that would test things I had available to me that I could expose the spiders to. So I was testing to see would these physical stimuli affect the patterns or behavior of the spiders. So I chose three things at hand. One was a foot massager. So I wanted to see if constant vibration over a period of days would make a difference in how they built their web. The second thing I had available was a rotisserie from the grill. And so I wanted to see if a constant rotation of this design box that I created would affect their webs. And the third thing was total darkness. So I exposed a certain group to total darkness. And then I carefully, at that time, I didn't have a 35mm camera personally. So I did these detailed drawings of what the webs looked like and collected the data, drew my conclusions. And so I got a chance to present my paper at Oak Ridge National Lab, my first trip to ORNL. And I won, and the prize for winning that was to get a trip to New York City. So here I'm an 8th generation East Tennessee kid. First time I get to get on an airplane, fly to New York City, and give a paper at West Point. And so it really left a mark. And the next year I was a little more interested in doing a science fair project because I saw there could be some benefits to me. And so the next year I decided to stick with spiders. I'd learned a bit about them over the last year. And this time I wanted to know about, there's discussion then, there still is to some extent, chlorine, when we put it in drinking water, water utilities have to add a tiny bit of ammonia to create this residual chlorine so it stays in the distribution system and the water's still clean when it gets to the tap in your house. And so it creates a compound called monochloramines. And the question was, is that a compound that could cause you to have cancer or cause problems with a developing baby and so on? And so I wondered, and the idea was that those compounds attack proteins in our body. And so I wondered, since spider silk was mostly protein, if I could develop a way to give a little injection to a spider and then look at the silk that it produced and see if it refracted light differently, then maybe I would understand better how it affected that silk and those proteins, and then potentially what would that do to us. So I developed a way to give a spider a little shot. I developed these ways of calculating the right dose to give the spider, and I worked with someone at UT that actually loaned me a camera so I could see if it affected the sort of the spectrum of colors, the birefringence it's called. All that, it was pretty involved, and it was one of those experiments where you don't get that satisfying conclusion that it made a difference, which was a bit of a bummer. But what wasn't a bummer was I won the science fair that year. And so I got to take a trip to Minneapolis, St. Paul. So my next time to be on an airplane. And more importantly, in that year, I won a $500 scholarship to start school at UT. And I didn't really know if I was going to go to college. So that bit of money gave me enough, together with some I'd saved working, to get that first quarter under my belt and then take one step after another. So when I went to UT, I had met a lady in the development of these projects that works with spiders. And coincidentally, this week, there's an article about her retiring from UT. Her name's Dr. Susan Reichert. So she gave me a job part-time to work in her laboratory. And I got to travel out to the Southwest History Museum in Arizona and work a couple of summers and learn a lot of things about science in that process, and then pursue a degree in biosystems engineering. And so none of that would have been possible if I hadn't gotten the first step in place with the science fair. Well, so I finished my degree, and in order to finish college, I needed more scholarship money. So I joined the Navy, and I joined the nuclear power program in the Navy. So I had an opportunity then to go teach people who operate nuclear propulsion plants that drive our submarines and our nuclear surface ships. And so I got to put my science and STEM and engineering education to work in understanding how those propulsion systems worked, and then how to convey that to students when I taught math and chemistry, material science, radiological fundamentals. And the amazing thing about that, and the way these dominoes fall, when you get older like I am and you reflect back on these things, you realize just how the smallest movement early in your career, like you guys are in middle school or high school, can make a big difference in terms of the future dominoes. So in the Navy, I got to make friends with a lot of bright people, friends to this day. And it set me up so that I could have a job to come back to Oak Ridge National Lab when I got out of the Navy in 1989 and work there as a project engineer in the environmental and safety and health areas. Got to work with some people working on some cutting edge ways to manage nuclear materials and radioactive waste, and develop a project where they took technology from France and implemented it in Oak Ridge and so on. And in all that time, I had this sort of this itch to have my own business. But when I left ORNL and went into the private sector and did consulting related to environmental things, still feeling kind of unsettled. So one day in 1999, I called my wife at work, and I said, hear me out. I said, our daughter at the time, she was 5. I said, while Sarah's small, why don't we take some money out of our savings and get a repoed RV? We'll lease our house for a year, and let's travel around the country and see where we want to go next in our career and life, and listen and see how God might be calling us into the next phase of our life. And so she said, okay. So we got the RV, we pulled our Jeep and a Barbie bike behind it, and we went 22,000 miles, 35 states, 4 provinces in Canada, and sort of followed the seasons. And in that, I was just seeking this is personal, right? So this is just what I was doing in my life. I was just praying, what should I do in my life, God? What are you calling me to do? And I just felt this sense that he was calling me to start a business that treats people the way you want to be treated. And that's not the answer I wanted. I wanted something more interesting. I wanted something more high tech. I wanted something that I could tell everybody about it and they'd say, gee whiz. But I didn't get that. And so I felt really called to do it. I came back, and that's where the business strategy came from. I started a business, just beginning to consult myself and then inviting others to join me. And then we've grown that now to almost 250 people. And the validation for us, one of the cool things that happened this last year is that the United States Chamber of Commerce selected our business as the National Small Business of the Year. And I don't say that to boast, except on our team, but to say that I believe that the manifestation of that calling to treat people like you want to be treated and to anchor core values in place that you can build on, which for us were integrity, service, and quality, gives you a foundation that other other wonderful things can come from. When I started the business and when I had that sense of calling to do it, it was a fearful time, honestly, because I had to, let's go back one slide, or well, that's cool. That was a fun night. And they gave us, if you've seen those giant styrofoam checks, it was my first chance that for someone to give you one of those. And we had the blessing to be able to take that and then bring it back to Knoxville and divide it up between Westview Community School to help kids in need there at Westview, and CARM, Knox Area Rescue Ministries. It's a ministry that serves the homeless in Knoxville. And then to make it even better, I told my partners and teammates I'd just love to see a way that this could be multiplied. And our bank volunteered to match that. So each of those organizations got the same amount. So each organization got $25,000 just because our team stuck to their core values and tried to make a difference. Well, I was going back to fear. So let's go back to the snowflake, Jason. I think everything in life that has that element of a little bit of a mountain, a little bit of a fear, a little bit of a chasm we have to get across, it represents the opportunity that in science, we learn about it as activation energy. You know, it's that little bit extra that you have to put in to get from, you know, a match to a fire. And the business for me was one of those great examples of it. There was so much that could have gone wrong. I could have failed. I could have embarrassed myself, you might say. But one of the thoughts I want to leave you guys with is that I was thinking about that wrong. The opportunity to engage my fear and move into what could be some of the best things that could happen on the other side of it, that I could envision and could work towards, to miss out on that simply by being afraid. I think that's probably one of our greatest ways as a nation we squander our resources as individuals. And so as young people, I just encourage you, don't think about things in that view of failure like that, because very often you can try something, it doesn't work, that's not a failure. That's one of the great things you learn in science, is when you do an experiment and the outcome's the null hypothesis, that just means you proved that. So I leave that idea with you again, that step into those fears, and when you do, overcoming your fears is one of the best places you'll grow. Well, our company works on environmental things and nuclear things and in the utility sector, and gets to work on some really challenging projects. We manage a solar farm in West Tennessee for the University of Tennessee. We get to work on really interesting things from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. And all of that, again, is from this core of STEM knowledge that most of us accumulated beginning at the ages that you guys are watching this. So I just thank our strategy team for what they've done to make that possible. And to wrap up before questions, I just want to say to the teachers in the audience, thank you. You really do make such a difference. What you do matters. And I'm just one example out of many, many whose life trajectories have been affected in a very positive way because you poured extra into your students. And for the students in the audience, I just want to encourage you again by saying embrace the wonder, because in the wonder and the mystery and the answering of those questions, that will inspire you. And I say again, embrace your fears, because overcoming those will enable you to grow. And embrace your dreams, because they've come true. And that's really all I have. I just say to you, good luck and God bless you, and then I'll answer any questions you have.
Bye.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute, or you can type them into the chat as well. You're welcome to do that. And I can lead off with the question, Dan. just especially for this group, I've heard from several students that they're really not sure what they want to do their project on. I know you mentioned the spiders, and then that kind of came about. What would you recommend to those students who are just unsure? What should I do? What could I study? How would you approach that?
Yes, so that's an important question. I always start with the answer of follow your heart. So I would say explore things that are of interest to you. Where do you find just a little bit of extra curiosity? Take a step there, learn a little bit about something where your curiosity is, and then give yourself the latitude to ask a question. Make up your own questions. That's another great thing about science. There's so few rules. I mean, there's some very specific rules you have to follow in the course of conducting good research. I'm not saying not to do that, but in terms of letting your mind flow, and I think it's one of the best opportunities to stretch your imagination. So I would step into your curiosity and where you get a little energy. When I was in 7th grade, I didn't talk about these two projects, but in 7th grade, I did something. I got a chemistry set, and I realized I could make sulfur dioxide, and so air pollution was of interest then and now. And so I did a little project where I built 2 terrariums and put sulfur dioxide in one and had a controlled terrarium, and I was curious what the acid rain effect on the terrarium would be. So I love the nature, and I love going outside, and so that's how I pursued that one. I hope that helps, Jason. I also did the 8th grade one. You scientists will laugh at this. I was curious. I had read about pyramids and mummies, and there was even a professor from MIT who had written a book about pyramidal power and so on. So I'd read this book, and so I wondered if would pyramids really make a difference in how organic materials would store. So I did a project. I still remember the title, The Effects of Pyramidal Structures on the Putrefaction and Dehydration of Various Organic Materials. I made these little pyramids out of poster board, made little cubes. I put some things in the refrigerator and left some out. How about my mom? Here's a shout out to moms everywhere who put up with this stuff. And the judges at that science fair, they gave me a C for or an I for imagination. I think that's what I got that year.
I do have to feel very sorry for your mom with sulfur dioxide and all this going on in her home. So I'm glad she supported you.
What else?
We have a comment in the chat.
Olivia says, more of a comment, less a question, but this meeting's made her respect how cool science is more than she already did. So she says thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you, Olivia. I appreciate that.
Is there a project? This is another question I'll just throw out there, Dan. Is there a project right now your company is working on that just kind of sticks out to you as kind of very unique or interesting that could inspire some of these students?
Well, we've done, this might not sound very interesting, but we're working on a licensing project that would help an organization be able to use nuclear materials in a way that'll be healthy and helpful in society. I can't get into a lot of the details, but that one is pretty cool. We're building we're doing a new gas-powered facility in North Dakota to upgrade the steam plant there, and I would have to let my guys who are really the experts on that talk to you a little bit more about it to voice in the importance of that and how it's going to make the lives better for the people at the University of North Dakota. That's a neat project. We're doing something in England related to extracting certain radioactive materials from certain industrial streams. So those are things. And then we do environmental, we work on air pollution stuff for 3M and Alcoa, stuff that really matters day in and day out. We do water related, keeping water clean for our clients around Department of Energy. So it's pretty wide range of projects, Jason.
So Dan, how did you hook up with England?
One of our employees has a PhD in chemistry, and he's a real expert in this area that the folks in England needed the know-how. And so they needed his expertise and came through our company to acquire that.
So do you have a whole team of people working over there, or is most of the work done here for them over there, and you pass it along?
Right. Yeah, so the work is done here for the team there. And that's one of the things about COVID and this Zoom intensive world we're all living in now. We're seeing just how well we can telework and team up, across states and nations and really be productive. I'm curious what you guys think, or any of the students might think about work after this. Do you think work will be quite different? Do you think we'll do a lot more remote working? Or do you think there'll be a rush back to be, in contact personally? I see the answers. Good. Yeah, it sounds like we're seeing the world about the same, that we'll have more of this with us. And honestly, young people, I'll say to you, this forced guys my age to engage these tools better. And so I think our company's better because we had to use these tools. We had to figure it out. And you guys, you naturally have more strengths in that area. By the way, that's one of the things I'll say to you too, that as I'm reading your comments as I'm speaking here, the skills that you have acquired just from the time that you've had a device in your hand and learned to compute and the technology that you understand, gives you an advantage on one hand and a disadvantage on the other. You have to complement the advantage in technical know-how with the disadvantage of not letting that interrupt your ability to communicate and connect with people. So be sure not to lean on that crutch of technology too much, because I think we'll still always need to have the gifts and opportunities that are created in interpersonal skills and communicating there. But our company is using young engineers in ways to help us grow, that our more seasoned folks, they bring different gifts in terms of their expertise. So it's fun to watch that develop across generations and time. What about that snowflake? That is not artist enhanced. That's just a picture of a snowflake. That's worth staring at for a minute.
Hey, Dan, I've got a question.
Hey, Leah, it's one of my colleagues.
Yeah.
Partners.
So what area of science and engineering do you see there's going to be we see a lot of baby boomers retiring. What areas do you think this, especially the folks in high school and this, may want to look at, as far as a major where we're going to see, a lack of people in those areas where we really need them?
That's a really great question. That's not a planning question, so I'm just going to riff. This is the way my mind works. So the whole green movement's an important movement, right? I think all of us would generally agree that our Earth needs us as a friend, and we need to be good stewards of it. And so I think all of science can turn in certain ways to make a difference. And I think I think there'll be many opportunities related to that. I want us to ask big questions like, in other words, on one hand, we might say we can't have coal and petroleum at producing these greenhouse gases. We have to do something different. So fair. What else can we do with those resources? What else can we do with coal that would be value added and not harmful to the environment? I want us to take on those kinds of questions. And I know we've done that for decades, but I think that kind of thing with new technology and new ideas and new motivations, because we are, the clock is ticking, I think, on our climate. Data analytics, Leah, I think sense making. There's so much information, but so little sense made of it in general. And so there's such appetite to make sense of things. One of the things I see just back to the communication thing, project managers, people who can take technical know-how and communication skills and some basic Microsoft project type skills, Excel, Word, et cetera, and run a project to success with a team of people. Because I think no one of us on this call can solve any really big problem. We can make important contributions, but we need to figure out how to work together to solve the big problems. So I think those kinds of skills are really important. And Leah, I'm curious, did you have any thoughts on that? Leah leads our business services division and most of our corporate recruiting and so on. Do you have an opinion on some of that?
No, I just know that, recently we've heard how many people are retiring. They say that 1.1 million people will retire this year that are in the baby boomer generation. And I know as a company, we get concerned when somebody that has been an expert out at Oak Ridge National Lab retired, came to us. We get nervous when we hear that they may retire. And they've got that institutional knowledge, of what has happened as far as the cleanup and tearing down buildings and, mercury in the ground and things like that. Who's going to be that next generation? And that's, my concern is what are people majoring in where they can come in and hopefully mentor, have those mentors, but maybe not.
Knowledge management and everything around the essence of that problem, which is the transfer of information from one generation to the next, from one person to the next, one team to the next. Everything about that, I think, Lee, is a whole area of opportunity.
And I'm going to jump in. We have a question in the chat from Carissa.
Okay.
And she says, if you could change something about your career path, the first question is, would you do that? And if you would do that, what would you change?
Great question. Yes. And the immediate thing that comes to mind, I would have started my business sooner. That fear factor I mentioned to you pushed me out several years from when that longing or the sense was there. So that would be the one big thing I think I would do over, is try to start that sooner. Other than that, no, I've been one that tried to follow my heart, tried to listen to where I felt the longings were leading me, and so I've been amazingly surprised at how that's all worked, and I really, the only credit I could take whatsoever is just to follow in humility and obedience and work hard. What else?
Olivia's asking the name of your business again.
It's called Strategy LLC. So go back to the title slide if you don't mind, Jason. So on the web, instead of a star, use a dash, Strata-G LLC. It's been quite a year. And I'm sure next year will bring its own interests and challenges. But things related to this pandemic and how we might anticipate the future, things related to how young people have been marked by this. What will they want more of? How will they behave differently because of it? You know, my parents lived through the Depression, and so they had very, they were very guarded, let's use that word. And, you know, mom had 500 butter dishes that I could collect spiders in under her kitchen cabinet, and, you know, these kinds of things. But it's because they lived through very real challenges and fears and overcame them, and it modified them forever. They were very conservative. And so I wonder how this will affect young people and what opportunities there. How will science speak into that? How much more prepared can we get? What level of discomfort do we have with our political system such that we don't look to Washington for answers, but we figure those things out as teams, because we believe there probably will be another pandemic of some kind, and we want to be prepared for it as individuals and companies and states and communities. Not saying we give up on Washington, and I'm not making any kind of political statement here, but I think all of us are going to be shaped by this. Next year will be, I gave a Christmas talk last year going into 2020, and 2020 is such a cute number, right? It's round, it looked good on New Year's Eve and all that. But wow, none of us expected how it would wallop us. So we tend to have our best moments after a good walloping. So I'm hoping that we can see some of that. And as young people, how you accept all that and embrace it and make something great out of it, that's your gift. That's your opportunity.
Zach in the chat says he's joined a little late, and I know we have spoken briefly on what strategy does. Could you give him kind of a brief overview of what you all do?
Yeah, so we're a professional services company that works in the environmental, nuclear, utilities sectors. And we have 3 divisions in our company. So we started out in the world of environmental safety and health, radioactive material management, hazardous material management. We added in the project management and project controls work that supports that. So we have a business services business unit. And then we focus a lot of our project management and technical skills and quality assurance and nuclear operations in infrastructure. And so we do that kind of thing for gas utilities, electric utilities, water utilities. So our company is a group of technical scientists, mostly engineers, working for folks from Fortune 500 to Department of Energy and public utility organizations. Well, you know, my favorite thing about any talk is brevity. So I'm willing to throw in the towel if you all are.
I've got one more thing. You may have mentioned it before I heard, but if you are interested in being in the science fair, Strategy does have an award each year where we recognize a high school student with a project of importance to us, of sustainability of the environment. So encourage you, I know Jason mentioned that at the beginning, but we encourage you to find a project and go after that.
Thanks, Leah. And I'll say one more side effect of the outcomes of science and engineering and business in my life and how it's manifested through Strategy. When we started, we said we would like to be a company of significance. And for us, we said we would define that to be a company that hires and takes care of great people, earns their clients' respect and trust. And if you do those 2 things, and to you future entrepreneurs that might be out there, if you have great people and you do great things for your clients, you can make money. But we felt like if you just made money as a business and didn't do anything else, there was something missing. And so the third part of the definition of significance for us is to make a difference in the community. And so we decided early on, we'll focus on food, shelter, environment, and education in our community. We'll develop partners in each of those areas, and we'll try to help them make a difference with our time, with our talent and with our treasurer. And so it's probably, if you ask me, the most fruitful thing about my whole career and the whole business, it would be how through the work of our team, we've been able to help people that need it. And we've been able to use people's education to, for example, to improve the energy efficiency at CARM so they can feed several thousand more people per year because of money they save on energy efficiency. Just that's one simple thing. And so when you put all this together, when you think about your career, when you think about what you want to study, when you think about where you want to work, and you think about what you want your life to be, don't feel like you have to compartmentalize it. It can all fit together. And it does fit together, and it's interrelated. And so let the things like that, so you can tell from, you probably look at me and tell that stuff drives my heart. And the things that will drive your heart will give you the juice and energy to drive your mind and make you stay up a little later and get that homework from a B to an A, and things that kind of add up over time. So I guess that's my parting thought.
Dan, I think we've stimulated a few more questions in the chat while you were talking there.
Okay, well, I'll stick around.
We won't keep anyone past 8 or so. So I can kind of read them out rapid fire to you.
No, don't rush on my account. I just didn't want to be that lingering guest that everybody just would kind of dial out.
No problem. First one from Adi, and I hope I'm saying that right, Adi. So he or she wants to know, does your business use artificial intelligence for anything? And if so, what?
Not really. And it's a great question. And Leah, let's put that down for our strategic planning discussion in January. Because I think there are two aspects of that we should think about. One is, how can we use that to be more efficient as a business? But also, how can we offer those services, hire that expertise, and grow in that area? Because you nailed it. I wish I'd thought of that when Leah asked me the question about a growth area. So who asked that question, Jason?
That was Adi.
Adi, great question.
Olivia, the next question. And question is, do you think that because we've used so much technology during the pandemic that our technological sciences have advanced? Or do you think otherwise? Have we gone backwards or stayed stagnant?
My answer would opt in on the side that we've advanced, because it made us uncomfortable, and that's usually where advancement comes from. And I think, we're not the only company that had to figure things out and, hustle up to try to keep up and get ahead. And so my bet is on we've advanced.
Zach actually says he thinks cloud services have been improving. But Zach also asked, he wanted to know your website. It looks like he's been perusing your website while we've been talking. Who did you make it, or who made it?
We collaborated with a company called Slam Dot, and we're actually in the process of doing an update and upgrade to it right now. So hopefully if you come back after the first of the year, you'll see a better website. But I guess what I'll say in the way of being okay with it, I think it reflects who we are. But it can be better, and we want it to be better.
That's all the questions for now. Students, does anybody else have any more questions before we wrap up this evening? Give it just a couple of moments.
While they're thinking, Jason, guys, if you're still on the phone, look out across those Smoky Mountains. That's one of the most biodiverse places on the whole planet. And based on what we know about the universe right now, one of the most biodiverse places in the whole universe. There's 10 billion science projects just in that center frame. So that's the kind of thing I think you can do around a fire, or looking at the stars, or looking even at a photograph like that. Just keep after your sense of wonder. Because, and I say that because particularly in times like this that are hard and in many ways sad, and it's easy to lose sight of that bigger, brighter sense of hope and wonder, and that's the thing that you hold to the tightest.
Well, if that's about it, we'll wrap up here. Audie is hoping for an internship on that artificial intelligence I must mention. So that's a comment there. So Leah, there you go.
Audie, way to go. Connect to Leah. Yeah, we have brought in a lot of interns, a lot of employees through different conversations like this one. So maybe that can work.
Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap up. Kim, Jan, anybody have any final thoughts before we go?
No, I just wanted to thank Dan for his talk and for his continued support of the science fair. And there have been times whenever we wouldn't have been around if you hadn't helped us out. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kim. It's a mutual admiration society.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been on the meeting tonight, and it's been a lot of great conversation by our students, and we want to see you back in 2 weeks and continue to help you find your way to your project.
And Jan and Kim and team, if any of the students have specific questions related to kind of shaping a project, I wouldn't mind responding to a few of those. So if they want to, I don't mind giving my email to that. And I don't know how you channel these and how you work that sort of thing, but if I could give you just a little.
Everything goes to Jason, so he can forward anything that they need to get to you. Everything comes to prep at utk.edu, so he can forward anything that they want to ask.
Yeah, I like that. That would be ideal. That's really good. That's a good approach.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Sure.
You guys, you won't get many of those kind of offers from very many CEOs, so take advantage.
I may stick you on spiders, though. Beware.
All right. Yeah. So if you have any questions for Dan about your project, certainly email us prep@utk.edu, and I can help put you in touch. But I guess that's probably about it for the night. We are just a reminder, the next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, December 15th at 7 o'clock, and we will break out into small groups and talk with our mentors in each research area. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay warm tonight, just like Dan by that fire. It looks really nice.
Okay.
And we will see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Y'all take care. Bye-bye.